Hello everyone, welcome back to the 7-day cybersecurity bootcamp. I'm Marley and I'm leading you through 7 days of cybersecurity best practices to make sure your business never suffers from data loss, cyber breach lawsuits, or compliance fines and penalties. We're going to walk through today day 2 which is on program updates. Also, we'll include hardware updates, software updates from Microsoft, and also from third parties. Make sure as we get into day 2 that you already have the documentation we needed printed out, available to you, so you can make notes as we go, but also follow along. The more you participate, the more you take notes, the more you fill in the documents, the more you're going to learn during this boot camp, and the more you'll get out of it. Now, today is going to be one of the shorter days on the course. There's not a lot to cover on program updates. Most of it's done automatically for you in Windows 10. But I do want to explain the difference in the types of updates and how they get done, and also multiple ways of doing it on this network to make sure it gets done. Before we begin, I do want you to remember, we covered this in day 1, that before all practices, processes, and advice provided during boot camp is just meant to be informational, and all precautions must be taken to back up and protect your systems before any changes are made to configuration files, registries, or software installations. Network Computer Solutions assumes no liability for any harm or damage caused by you acting on our advice. Network Computer Solutions recommends all work be performed by a certified and trained IT technician. All trademarks used throughout this course remains the property of their respective owners. On day 1, we covered passwords. Let's review that. We went through password policies for all employees and contractors. We went through group policies to simply and easily deploy and manage passwords to all your employees and your contractors and to all your applications. We covered multi-factor authentication. We covered the different types of it and also recommended some vendors. Password management applications, we talked about having all your eggs in one basket and how that's better than having multiple eggs with no basket whatsoever. We talked about how to manage passwords on standalone computers that do not have a server or Active Directory. We talked about having additional user accounts on those PCs. And then we got into detail. We went deep into the dark web. We talked about things you can buy and how you can buy and the value and why you should be concerned about the dark web. It's not too late. Comment below in the Facebook group or message me and we'll get with you. We'll talk about the dark web. Don't overlook this. This is pretty serious. Who am I? I'm Marley. I'm the CEO of Network Computer Solutions in Warsaw, Indiana. I began my IT career in 1989 while serving in the United States Marine Corps. And while in the Marine Corps, I was deployed to Operation Desert Storm in Saudi Arabia. I spent time in Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, and Kuwait. In my unit, we had troops all the way from the front lines of Baghdad all the way back to the back of Jubail and farther. My job while I was serving there, besides on guard duty and being a Marine, was I was put in charge of protecting the data, the databases, and security of all the data for many Marine Corps units in the country. We had a lot of information about personnel records, troop numbers, whatever else we might have had, and we had to make sure that never got stolen, encrypted, lost, whatever. And we also had to make sure that we had good backups because we were working in a very hostile environment for technology. We were dealing with blowing sand, heat, living in tents and hooches, in unair-conditioned buildings. Most of our computers were set up in tents. So we had to make sure that we didn't lose data. And I'll tell you, not one piece of data was lost or jeopardized while I was in charge of that unit. Today, I run a squad of cyber technicians and engineers. We specialize in managing technology and security for businesses all over the country. We manage businesses from all kinds of industries, but we have a lot of clients in the agriculture, healthcare, and financial areas. If you think we can help you or you need some advice on your technology or your cybersecurity, reach out to us and we'll have scheduled a meeting. We'll talk about it and see if we can help you be a little more secure. Today we're going to cover program updates. Program updates are a critical piece of your overall network security plan. Malware and ransomware are designed to exploit known weaknesses in Windows and other operating systems. Windows Update is the service responsible to update Windows, desktop, and server operating systems. It can be done pretty much automatically. We'll talk about that. And you get all kinds of updates notices at the bottom of your screen, like the icons there. And when you do, you got to respond to those and make sure you update all those as well. Updating Windows is not a set it and forget it system. Even though it's automatic, you have to manage it, make sure it takes place. One failed update could stop all the updates in the future from ever running, and you could be a lot of updates behind, even years behind, and not know it. You need to have a process in place to monitor and report all failed updates to make sure they do get applied. Sometimes you have to make changes to Windows or repairs to the operating system in order for updates to be applied. Why are updates important? Because updates are one of the major factors in stopping ransomware. People who deploy ransomware or send it to your employees and they click on it and they activate it, a lot of those are meant to exploit known weaknesses in Windows operating system. So if you do all your Windows updates, you're a lot better off and a lot less likely to have issues. It's also much easier to roll back a system when you get infected if you already had the updates applied beforehand. Well, you must understand there are different types of Windows updates and how critical and important they are. Some are minor and some are major, and we'll talk real quickly cover those. All this is covered in more detail with the supporting documentation that's included in this course. If you don't have it downloaded, make sure you go back to the portal where you got this video and download the supporting documentation. When you're done, put that in a binder, keep all your notes, and use it in the future to make your network more secure. The first one is important updates. Those are significant benefits such as improved security, privacy, reliability. They should be installed as they become available, and they most of the time will be installed automatically as part of Windows Update. Recommended updates are non-critical. You can install those if you want. They address usually functionality issues, not security. You can also let those automatically be installed. There are optional updates. These are like drivers and things. I would do these, but you got to be careful with the driver updates because they might update a driver if something else stopped working. Recently on my desktop computer in my office, I had issues where I had some functionality where my second monitor quit working. I couldn't figure out why. And I found out what it was an optional update that I applied from Windows 10, and it had actually disabled the video card portion of my card that supported the second monitor. And it took a little bit of work to figure it out, but luckily we monitor all updates that we apply. We do it from a agent base from a server, so we could actually click on it, find out what was installed, and the simple rollback was all it took to solve the problem. Security updates are broadly released to fix known issues. These are the kind of things that people exploit to get viruses and malware ransomware on your PCs. These are very important. Microsoft typically will classify these as critical, important, or moderate, or low. And a lot of these, you may even hear of one called out of band. Out of band is something that Microsoft threw their hands in the air and go, oh crap, let's update immediately, and may not even wait till patch Tuesday. They'll push it out when it happens. This is to fix an issue that someone is actively in the wild exploiting. So if you see an out of band update, make sure you apply it automatically. If you're a managed client of ours, it'll get done automatically for you. And we also report that to you each month in the report that we give you to show we applied all the patches. If you ever have any questions about it, reach out to us and we can explain it to you and show you the reports. Critical updates are broadly released to fix specific problems addressing non-critical related bugs and security. Those can be normally automatically applied as well. It's important that you do the critical updates as soon as they come out. We recommend at least once every week to apply all the updates. And then there's service packs. A service pack is accumulation of all the updates prior to that time. So if you have the original Windows 10 example and you've never applied updates and you do the Windows 10 service pack, what will happen is all those updates that you've missed will be applied with the exception of optional updates. Optional updates primarily stay optional because it could potentially affect the performance of your system. So be on the lookout for those, but make sure you do your service packs. I warn you, a service pack is something that takes a long time to run. It's not a 5-minute process. It'll reboot several times. It'll shut down. I mean, there's a lot of things it will do, and be aware it might take several hours to run. So do that after hours or when you can afford a downtime. I do recommend that you have a patch management policy for all employees, just like you do for passwords. We're going to put together a series of documents through this course that employees are going to sign and understand and read so that you can make sure they're following the right policies and to make sure that you enforce them as an owner or manager. We'll include a sample in this course that you can download, modify with your company information, send it through your legal department and make sure it works, but then use it as a document for your employees to sign. Patch management, much like we talked about in day one with passwords, can be done through group policies on your PCs and your servers if you have an Active Directory domain. If you're on a Windows 2008, 12, 16, or anything newer than that, then you're most likely on an Active Directory domain, and your system administrator can set up a group policy to make sure all the patches are applied correctly. It's a very efficient way to do patching, and you also get notifications if they fail. This is a screen that shows how to do it in group policy. This is what it looks like. Looks a lot like the password group policy. In your supporting documentation for this course, you're going to find all the documents step by step to deploy group policy Windows updates. If you don't have Active Directory and you have a local computers, like we talked about before with passwords, they can be done. You can set up group policies on individual computers, or you can go through the process of manually updating and applying patches to every computer. It's a time-consuming process and it's very meticulous, and chances are you'll miss something. So if you're going to do it this way, make sure you create yourself a checklist, a spreadsheet, or something to make sure that every computer gets done. Because if you forget one computer in your network, a lot of the ransomware that's coming out recently, and like the Petya ransomware recently, it was able to move horizontally across your network, which means that if you had all your computers protected except for one, and that one computer was infected with, say, the Petya virus, it could go horizontally through the computers that were already protected and infect them as well. So you got to make sure you do very good system processes to make sure every computer on your network is updated. If you get any computers that are beyond the life and Microsoft no longer updates them, toss them out now because they're a big threat to your network. If you have to use the computers such as Windows XP or Windows Server 2003 for a very specific application that doesn't support newer operating systems, then there's measures that we can take to secure that environment so that you don't have issues. I'm not going to get into it here because it's very complicated, but if you have an older application that requires an older computer, you don't have to toss it and buy a new application. What you have to do is secure yourself and put an extra layer of defense in between that computer and the internet so it doesn't get infected. Because there's no longer getting Windows updates from Microsoft, which means all the breaches that are happening to the newer operating systems that are being patched are not being patched on the old ones, so they're vulnerable to all those attacks. Again, it's very serious if you have one of those older computers that you get with us and let us talk to you about replacing it or getting it secured so it can run on your network. There's also third-party program updates. What are those? Those are programs that you install on your computer that have access to the internet, and those programs also contain a lot of security risks. A lot of them out there. If you look at some of those, there's like Java updates, there's Malwarebytes, there's Flash, there's DC, there's Adobe. There's all kinds of updates. Adobe Viewer. And a lot of the patches are Java and Adobe based and Flash. So if you have applications that require Java, a lot of those, I wish they wouldn't still support Java, because Java is one of the most exploited applications on the internet on your computer today. But they continue, manufacturers of applications continue to make applications that rely on Java. I wish they wouldn't. And you have to make sure Java is updated to the most recent version to protect yourself from viruses. The problem is some of the applications that are written for Java, they won't run correctly on the newer versions of Java. So don't just go out there and immediately update everything because a little bubble pops up down by your clock. You could update it and block access to other applications. So you want to make sure that you do an inventory of any application you have that requires these third-party programs to run. And you can always check with these people then before you do the updates to make sure that they are compatible, so you don't have to uninstall them, potentially corrupt your operating system, and have to reload your PC. I warn you, this is very delicate, but it has to be done. If you're a managed client of ours, we have a system in place. We can whitelist and to blacklist certain application updates for certain computers so that we know they're compatible. And we also contact all the software manufacturers that you use to make sure of which version they support. That way we don't cause any issues for you. Plus we'll do all the updates after hours, so it shouldn't interfere with your day anyways. So this is not as simple as set it and forget it and let it update. There's a lot more to it than that, and there's some supported documentation along with this that you can read. But also go to the manufacturer's website like Adobe and Java.com, Malwarebytes, to make sure that you totally understand the risk of not updating and also what current version is out there. If you don't want to do those manually, we do it for you, but if you want to do it yourself automatically, there's programs on the market that do those for you. One of them is called 9-Night Pro, and you have to pay for that, and I don't know the exact cost. It's relatively inexpensive. And another one called Chocolatey. Sounds very yummy. Now they both do it primarily the same thing. They do it in different ways. Typically Chocolatey costs less money than 9-Night does, but 9-Night is more menu driven, easier to use. Chocolatey is really, in my opinion, meant for an IT person who wants to automate using automatic scripts and APIs. But it can be done by an individual as well to save a little bit of money. My opinion is 9-Night Pro, if you're going to do it yourself, buy it, do it. You got to buy it for every computer you manage and make sure they all get done. If you get missed, it'll report to you which one's out of date so you can update it. They're both great applications. Again, hire a managed service provider and let them do it for you so you don't have to worry about it. And then you get a report each month showing that it's been done, and then you can rest easy at night knowing that. Well, that's all we had to cover today on day 2. There's not a lot for program updates. It's very serious. Just because it's a short day doesn't mean it's not serious, and it can really severely affect your network. But let's cover what we did. We understand there's different types of Windows updates, and we went through each one of those types of updates. I know I covered them quickly, and there's a lot of those, so go back and review this to make sure you totally understand, and look at the supporting documentation that come with this course to make sure you understand exactly what they are and when they should be applied. We also talked about patch management policies that you must have in place and signed by all employees. We cover group policy implementation of patch management and also local PC application as well and how to implement it there. And then we talked about third-party updates, the importance of those, and also I gave you some automated scripts, some programs to do that for you. So thank you for joining us on day 2. I hope you learned something. Get it all done today because tomorrow we're coming back and we're going to talk about antivirus. Antivirus is a big thing because most people who are using antivirus today are using obsolete programs. I'm going to explain it more tomorrow in day 3, but think about next generation. Don't worry about it today, but I think you're going to learn something tomorrow. I'll see you then. Thanks for joining me.